Most movies come together in ways we never fully see. On the surface, they feel inevitable, like everything happened exactly the way it was meant to. But sometimes, just beneath that surface, there's a completely different version that almost existed. That's especially true for Uncle Buck. It's remembered as one of those perfectly cast, effortlessly charming comedies. The kind where every moment feels natural, every character feels right, and nothing seems out of place. But the truth is, it came incredibly close to being something very different. And it all started with a simple question: what if Uncle Buck didn't look, or feel, like the man audiences came to love? Before the role was locked in, there were quiet conversations about other actors stepping into the part. Each of them brought a completely different energy. Some leaned sharper, more sarcastic. Others carried a more exaggerated comedic style. If any of those choices had gone through, the film might have shifted into something colder, maybe even more cynical. What made the final casting work wasn't just humor, it was warmth. The ability to be ridiculous one moment and deeply human the next. That balance turned a potentially one-note character into someone audiences could genuinely care about. And once that tone was set, everything else seemed to fall into place. One small scene early in the film would end up having a surprisingly big impact. A simple exchange between a child and an adult at a front door, quick, funny, and deceptively clever. At the time, it probably felt like just another moment. But it revealed something important: a child performer who could hold attention completely on his own. Confident, controlled, and just unpredictable enough to be interesting. That realization didn't stay contained within the film. It planted an idea, one that would grow into something much bigger later on. Sometimes, the seeds of future classics are hidden inside moments no one thinks twice about. Behind the scenes, the production itself relied on some creative problem-solving. Instead of building everything from scratch or constantly moving between locations, part of the film was shot inside a repurposed space, a place that offered control without the usual cost. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. Having that flexibility meant scenes could be shaped more precisely. Lighting, sound, timing, all handled without the chaos that often comes with location shooting. It gave the film a subtle consistency that's easy to overlook but hard to replicate. Then there's the way the film built its characters without always relying on dialogue. Take Buck's apartment. It wasn't just a set, it was a story in itself. Every object, every bit of clutter, every oddly placed item hinted at who this person was. Not careless, exactly. Just selective about what mattered. That kind of visual storytelling does something powerful. It lets the audience understand a character before they even speak. And when it works, it feels invisible. Location choices played a big role too. Instead of relying heavily on artificial sets, the film leaned into real environments, places with history, texture, and a sense of life that can't be manufactured. That authenticity shows up in subtle ways. The way spaces feel lived in. The way backgrounds carry weight without drawing attention to themselves. It's one of those details you don't consciously notice, until it's missing. The film also captured a very specific sense of place. Not exaggerated, not polished, just recognizable. Streets, houses, neighborhoods that felt like they belonged to real people. That grounding helped the story land emotionally. It made everything feel closer, more familiar. And yet, despite its grounded setting, the film wasn't afraid to push boundaries. At the time of its release, some viewers were surprised by how far it went in certain moments. The tone could shift quickly, from light-hearted comedy to something a little sharper, a little more uncomfortable. That contrast gave the film an edge. It didn't smooth everything out for the sake of simplicity. It let characters behave in ways that weren't always easy, but felt honest. Music played its part too. The soundtrack didn't just sit in the background, it helped define the film's identity. It anchored it firmly in its era while still supporting the emotional rhythm of each scene. Done right, music doesn't distract. It reinforces. And here, it quietly did a lot of work. Some parts of the film, however, didn't survive beyond production. Certain locations used during filming have since disappeared entirely, replaced by newer developments. What remains is only what the camera captured. That's one of the strange things about movies, they preserve moments that reality doesn't. Places change, buildings vanish, but on screen, they stay exactly as they were. In that way, films become a kind of time capsule. Even smaller details, like the way scenes were performed, reveal the level of thought behind the production. Fast-paced exchanges, especially between adults and children, required careful timing. What looks spontaneous is often anything but. Sometimes it's about positioning, sometimes about rhythm, sometimes about guiding a moment without making it feel guided at all. And when it works, it feels effortless. Of course, not everything went smoothly. There were scenes that had to be adjusted, trimmed, or reworked entirely. Moments that felt right on paper didn't always land the same way on screen. A sequence might go too far, or linger too long, shifting the audience's reaction in ways that didn't fit the rest of the film. Knowing what to remove can be just as important as knowing what to keep. There's also the lingering question of what might still be out there, early versions, extended cuts, and used footage that never made it into the final release. Stories like that tend to follow films over time. Whether they're fully accurate or not, they add a layer of mystery. The idea that there's more we haven't seen. And occasionally, small pieces do resurface, alternate takes, behind-the-scenes clips, fragments that offer a glimpse into what the film looked like before it was finished. They don't change the story, but they expand it. They remind us that what we see is only the final version of something much larger. In the end, what makes Uncle Buck last isn't just its humor. It's the combination of choices, some deliberate, some accidental, that shaped it along the way. Casting that could have gone differently. Scenes that quietly influenced future films. Locations that no longer exist. And a performance that brought something deeper than the script alone could provide. All of it comes together in a way that feels simple on the surface, but reveals more the closer you look. That's the kind of film that sticks. Not because it tries too hard, but because, somehow, everything underneath it was working harder than it ever needed to show.